take a, what is it, 3 after? Let's go till 10 after. Let's take a break until 10 after 7. Adjourn. Consideration approval of bid award for the remodeling of the community center kitchen. Brandon.
All right, good evening, Chair Malloy, members of the board. I'm here to discuss the community center kitchen again. During the 2020-2021 budget process, staff identified the community center kitchen as a, community center kitchen expansion as a project for this year's capital and Quimby projects. The board allocated $250,000 for this project. The RFP for this project was initially approved at the May 2021 board meeting. Unfortunately, due to incomplete and high bids, it was forced to be re-advertised at the July 7th board meeting. At this time, staff is asking for consideration to approve and award the bid, which would allow the project to begin September 20th, 2021. So the community center kitchen has been identified as a facility where we can offer improved classes and rentals. The existing design is crowded with aging equipment and appliances. The revised plans will consist of updated appliances, storage, and a more functional layout. The engineer's estimate for the construction was $175,000. Originally we received 3 bids. Unfortunately, the bids exceeded the budgeted amount or were incomplete. Therefore, the board was forced to reject all bids and re-advertise the request for a proposal. Here are 3 bids that we originally received from 3 different contractors. You can see they greatly exceeded the $250,000 budget. Due to the high and incomplete bids, staff re-advertises the request for a proposal, forcing the project timeline to be delayed. Staff held a second mandatory job walk on July 26th, where we had 5 contractors in attendance. 2 of those contractors previously bid on the project, where we had 3 new contractors in attendance. The sealed bids were due to the district office on August 17th. At that time, we had 2 contractors submit bids. Of those 5 contractors, 2 of the contractors were part of the original bids that we received. The 2 bids that we received were Burner Construction at $175,984 and SBS Construction coming in at $298,708. SBS Construction lowered their bid amount by $128,000. However, they were still over the construction estimate by about $125,000. Burner Construction submitted a bid in the same amount as their original bid, this time completing all the documentation. Should the board vote to award the bid to Burner Construction, the project timeline would be as follows. Above are some of the past dates just for reference. If the bid's awarded tonight, the project will begin September 20th with a completion date of January 23rd, 2022. Once again, funding for this project was allocated from the fiscal year 2020-2021 Quimby funds, where the board allocated $250,000 for completion of this project. To date, the district has spent $20,500 on architectural design fees with Lauterbach and Associates. If the board votes to award the bid to Burner Construction, the remaining budget would be as follows. The architectural design that we could complete already, $20,500, $175,984 for the construction contract with Burner Construction, 10% contingency with the remaining balance being $35,918 for appliances and shelving permits and advertising the request for proposal for a total of $250,000. So at this time, it is recommended the board approve and authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement between the district and Burner Construction Corporation for the demolition, construction, and installation of the community center kitchen remodel. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Director Kelly.
No, I don't have any.
What specific appliances got chosen?
They were the ones that were spec'd by the architect. I believe that they were sent over to you for.
Bob, are those the same ones? Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Director Dansfield.
What was it originally that, is it Burner Construction was missing in the first round?
They didn't have their bid bond in time.
Ah, okay, I was curious about that. And then the other thing that, I was going to ask, and I know that this is a kind of a strange question, but will the parts of the kitchen be operable, before the January 23rd date?
Well, part of it. Mm-hmm. At this time, we have it closed down during the whole construction, along with room one. Just for safety reasons, we're not going to want people going in there for, if we have open electrical or plumbing or things like that. So,
Got it.
without knowing exactly where we're going to be, we might be able to make that decision when we get a little closer through the process.
I'm just thinking of Breakfast with Santa.
It will be close.
That's all.
Karen, are the reservations for the use of that auditorium that might need a kitchen, are those reservation organizations such as Historical Society, they're aware that the kitchen's going to be there? Okay, all right. That's the last thing we need is just someone show up and,
We took it offline I think we started in August when we were originally starting this project.
Yeah.
Through the end of the year.
okay. Okay, Director Magner, do you have a question?
I do. The appliances and the shelving, are we going to put that in, or is the contractor going to put it in and we're just going to buy it?
We are purchasing it and the contractor is installing.
Thank you, Brandon. That's the only question I have.
Okay, any discussion? No further discussion. I need a motion to approve and authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement between the district and Burner Construction for the demolition, construction, and installation of community center kitchen remodel.
So moved.
Second,
It's moved and seconded. Karen, please call the roll.
Director Roberts,
Aye.
Director Magner,
aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Dransfeld,
Aye.
Chairman Malloy.
Aye, motion carries 5-0. Item C, consideration and approval of resolution number 687, approving the budget transfers and adjustments for fiscal year 21-22. Leo.
Chairman Malloy, members of the board, tonight I'm going to ask that the board look at a budget adjustment for this fiscal year 21-22. The reason I'm bringing this to you earlier than I normally do, which is normally at mid-year, is the district's been given 3 opportunities. They are the Community Development Block Grant, a capital improvement item that we we did purchase, and the City of Camarillo Christmas Parade contribution. Again, as I said, normally the budget adjustments are brought to you in about January, February of the year, but we had these opportunities come up. These opportunities were reviewed by the general manager, staff, and the finance committee, and these are consistent with practices and recommendations by the district auditors. The Community Development Block Grant opportunity was at a point in time, the district was a beneficiary of food distribution program. In November of 2020, the district was informed that the program would no longer be operational. Then the district had an opportunity to apply for a CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, to support the expenses of the food program. July 14th of 2021, the City of Camarillo approved CDBG CV3. The CV3 stands for Coronavirus Distribution Number 3. There had been 2 distributions prior to the CV3 for the Community Development Block Grant. This grant will be $127,285 for the term of 3 years. The district will get $42,428 per year for the next 3 years to put this program on. Because CDBG has such stringent accounting requirements, we're going to create a Fund 50. So if you recall, we have 10, our general fund, 20 is the assessment, 30 is Quimby, 40 is, oh, I'm drawing a blank. What?
Developer fees.
Developer fees, and then we have 5, which will be CDBG. And it's going to be called CDBG Food Share. So that way, it's identified as its own. It's easy to account for. There'll be no questions. And because we do know that they'll come back and do an audit on these funds. Another one of the opportunities was the Camarillo Christmas Parade. On June 6th, the city of Camarillo allocated $35,000 toward the Camarillo Christmas Parade that is put on by the Pleasant Valley Rec and Park District. At the time, we had not budgeted for the Christmas parade. I'm sorry, we did budget for the Christmas parade because we were not sure if the city was going to be able to make a contribution. But since they've been able to make that contribution, I'm asking that we transfer $15,000 to Division 520, which is grants to assist with the food share staffing and the supplies, and $14,550 to Division 505, which is the admin division, to help pay for the California Voters' Right Act expenses. The other opportunity we have was to buy a turf sweeper. We rent a turf sweeper annually, and it comes to just under $5,600 a year. When we approached the vendor about renting it again, they informed us that they had one for sale. It was a 2013 Windeman high capacity for $8,189. The company is allowing us to use the $5,560 toward the purchase of the $8,189. This would become a capital item, therefore increasing our capital budget that we had adopted in July. So here's a little table to show you what would be happening. For Fund 50, the new fund for the CDBG, it did not exist on July 7th. We are now creating it, and we're putting in $42,428 into that budget with your approval this evening. Capital was adopted at $693,880 on July 7th. We would like to add $8190 to that budget for a total of $702,070. And then we have a liability account that will have the $35,000. That is the contribution from the city of Camarillo for the Christmas parade. So the transfers that I'm asking that we do, since we received the money from the city that's allowed us to do these other two items, is for Fund 10, Division 3, which is recreation, move $15,000 into Fund 10, Division 520, which is our grants. Again, that is to help cover the CDBG personnel and supplies. We'd also like to move within Fund 10 from Recreation 503 to Fund 10, Division 505, Administration, $14,550, to cover the CVRA expenses that the district will start to incur. This action does not have any fiscal impact, as our bottom line will stay at $28,066 of revenue over expenses. We will have a newly created fund, which at this time, the difference between revenue and expenses will be zero, because we're going to be budgeting the $43,000 and we'll be expensing $43,000. And our capital expense will increase to $702,070. So tonight I'm asking that the board adopt Resolution 687, approving these budget adjustments and transfers for fiscal year 21-22. Do you have any questions?
Questions on the board? No questions? Director Magner, you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Any comments?
Can you guys hear me okay? Sorry. I just want to thank staff in the city for working together for the CDBG grant and being able to make this happen, bring food share back. I think that's really huge during the pandemic. It's unfortunate that we had a little dip there or break, but I'm glad that we're able to make it happen, and everyone was able to work together to find a way to provide the service, because I think it's going to be really important. So, thank you.
Director Kelly? None. Director Dransville? None. Director Magner, any comments, questions?
I do not.
Okay, I need a motion to review and adopt Resolution 687, approving budget adjustments transfers for fiscal 21-22.
So moved?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Karen, please call the roll.
Director Dransfeld,
Aye.
Director Magner,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Roberts,
Aye.
Chairman Malloy.
Aye. Okay. Move on to 7D, consideration approval of Resolution 688, adopting a district finance reserve policy. That's got to be you, Leo.
It is me. Give Dylan 1 second to get the PowerPoint up, and I will start. Chairman Malloy, members of the board, tonight I'm going to ask that the board adopt Resolution 688 for our reserve policy. As I go through this PowerPoint, you will see that I am adding a category of compensated absences to this policy, which was last reviewed on September 2nd of 2020. Again, this policy was reviewed on September 2nd of 2020, but going through our financials recently, we discovered that we did not have a reserve category for compensated absences. Compensated absences is what the employees have on the books as far as leave. And so therefore, if an employee leaves and they have maybe 2 or 3 weeks of paid time off, that prohibits us from bringing somebody in right away. We need to, because we have to pay them out. So what this would allow us to do is build up a bank so that we could pay them out and yet bring somebody on immediately. If the employee left on a Friday, we could bring somebody in on a Monday if we have this reserve bank on our books. So the financial reserve policy maintains reserve balances in the general fund to support the fiscal health and the stability of the district. I'm going to show a table in the next slide that's going to show the prior and the proposed annual contributions and the maximum balances desired. So as I brought to you in September, we have the vehicle, the computer, the dry period, the capital improvement, and the repair operations at administrative. The second column shows the maximum annual contribution, and the third column shows the maximum balance. The bottom line in red is the one that we're adding, is the compensated absences reserves. This item went before the Finance Committee, and it was determined that it would be best if we did an annual contribution of $25,000, and we took 25% of our June 30th, 2020 audited financials, which equate to $112,707, and that would be our target. Of course, this will be revisited every year, but that would be our target. In the perfect world, if we had $112,707, we would drop that into it, and we would have met the criteria for fiscal year 21-22. So as I said, there's been no changes in the prior reserve buckets, and we added the compensated absences per the Finance Committee's recommendation. There's no financial impact with this action, and I'm asking that the board approve and adopt Resolution 688 for the finance reserve policy, which will be including the compensated absence bucket. Does anyone have any questions?
Go ahead, Director Dransville.
Do you happen to know approximately what the outstanding balance is of?
If I took the 112 and multiplied that by 4, because that 112 is 25% of our outstanding compensated absences, I would say it's just under $500,000.
Got it. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, we discussed this in finance, and staff suggested a higher number, and we talked it over and felt like we were comfortable with this amount. It's a particular problem when you have a senior employee who tends to be higher on the pay scale and is harder to replace and has been around a long time and has more than 2 or 3 weeks of vacation time. So, we've had situations where we had our park superintendent, and while it takes a while, it's a big whack to the budget when you don't have that budget for. So now we essentially have a place, so it doesn't hit the budget, or the staff doesn't have to not fill the position for a period of time longer than it takes to do it. So it's just making money stand over to the side in case we need it. And it's pretty unusual, but this is a pretty mature policy, and it's just something staff came up with. I think it's a good idea. Okay, having no further questions, is there a motion?
A motion to approve resolution number 688, adopting the district financial reserve policy.
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
Elaine seconded. She beat me to it. Okay, moved and seconded. Please call the roll, Karen.
Director Roberts,
Aye.
Director Magner,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Dransfeld,
Aye.
Chairman Malloy.
Aye, and that motion carries 5-0. Item E, consideration approval of Resolution 689, adopting a financial investment policy.
Chairman Malloy, members of the board, tonight I'm going to ask that you adopt Resolution 689, our financial investment policy, which was last reviewed on April 1st of 2015. On April 1st of 2015, the Board of Directors reviewed and adopted the existing policy. In keeping with best practices, we recommend reviewing policies every 3 to 5 years. The policy shows that the district's committed in managing the finances in a prudent and responsible method. In review of the investment policy is part of the strategic plan that the Board of Directors set before the staff back in January. The old finance investment policy was not presented to the board with red markups. What I did is I started looking at other agencies' investment policies. I pulled the CSBA handbook that has a sample policy of multiple sample policies, and I looked at other governmental agencies. The finance investment policy was sent to our legal counsel, and they reviewed it to ensure the language of the policy kept the district in compliance with government codes, and the district is maintaining a sound financial position. Some of the similarities and differences in the policies was Government Code Section 53-600, that maintained. We kept that in, that was in the old version, it is in the new version. It allows the legislative body of a local agency to invest surplus monies not required for the immediate necessities of the local agency. Again, that was kept in both versions. I added section criteria for selecting investments with definitions. So we have safety, credit risk, market risk, liquidity, and the yield, with a definition next to it that you will see in the policy. I added CalTrust, our authorized and suitable investments. We had a listing of that we were allowed to use: Ventura County Pool, local agency of, the LAIF, amongst others, but CalTrust was not listed, and the district does use CalTrust, so I made sure that was listed. Under other permitted investments, deposits with percentage and maturity limits, the language was added to give more detail into the types of investments, ratings, days of maturity, and percentage of the district's overall portfolio. And there was a note that I added at the bottom: authorized and suitable investments. We use LAIF, which is Local Agency Investment Fund, located in Sacramento, CalTrust in the Ventura County Treasury. We call that the pool. And those are not subject to the 30% rule. A couple of other things. I added a section called responsibilities. I gave more detail than the prior version had. The section discusses the accounting department, the auditing firm, the board of directors, and the roles and responsibilities that each of us have. I added investment quarterly reports that are to be submitted by the end of each quarter. I currently do that to the finance committee, and then the following month it shows up in your board packet, but that was not stated, and that is a necessity. I added if an investment deviation poses a significant risk to the district's financial position, the board will be notified immediately. This action does not have any fiscal impact, and I'm asking that the board approve and adopt Resolution 689, updating the district financial investment policy. Any questions?
No questions? Good. Director Magner, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay. Leo, this is a very thorough update and revision, and I especially appreciate the way you separated out the Ventura County Fund with the other kind of local agency funds, specifically. I mentioned that. But also, there's a lot of other details in there that make it richer and more complete. And I appreciate your effort. Do I have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve resolution number 689, adopting a financial investment policy.
Second.
Karen, please call the roll.
Director
Aye.
Magner,
Aye.
Director Roberts,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Dransfeld,
Aye.
Chairman Malloy.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Move on to item F.
You'll have to bear with me on this one. This one has multiple slides of similarities and differences, so it's not as quick as the prior PowerPoint. Giving you a warning.
Okay, this is a district financial debt policy. And this is something that goes in the drawer and sits for a really long time because we don't take on debt very often, but we still have to have a policy for about when we do it, when it's appropriate, so.
Chairman
Proceed.
Malloy, members of the board, tonight I'm going to ask that you approve and adopt Resolution 690, updating the district's debt policy. It was last reviewed on July 1st, 2009. Again, as I had stated earlier, it's best to review policies every 3 to 5 years. So we will make sure we keep this on our radar, bring it to you in the next 3 to 5 years more frequently. It shows that district's managing the finances in a prudent and responsible method, and it also it matches up with our strategic plan that the board had asked staff to look at, and goals for that was presented in January. The old debt policy, again, I did not give you a red marked up one. I used the CSDA sample handbook, other government agencies, and put one together that mirrored ours somewhat, but yet we gave more detail. Again, this was reviewed by our legal counsel to make sure that we were in compliance with the government codes and we were maintaining a sound and financial position for the district. So to start with our similarities and differences, I added the guidance of a debt policy as far as the purpose of it. It's to maintain the district's sound financial position, ensure the district has flexibility to respond to changes, protect the district's creditworthiness, ensure all debt is structured to protect current and future taxpayers, and ensure district debt is consistent with the district's planning, goals, and objectives. I replaced section incurred debt with long-term debt. Consideration of issuance, issued to finance construction acquisitions. It's for rehabbing of capital improvements, facilities, equipment, and land to be owned by the district. And when debt is used to refinance outstanding debt to reduce total cost of a debt or to realize other benefits of a debt restructuring, like we did with the certificate of participation with PV Fields a few years ago. When debt is issued, the district is required to, I removed the debt service payment. Right now, when we get a bond, there's a category within the paperwork, the thousands of pages, that says there's a bond covenant, which requires that we have a debt service account, which you will see that on your cash report every month. It also is required that it has its own account line item, and that the And then what I do is we're required to have that money set aside every fiscal year to make those bond payments. So what I do is when the December and April apportionments come in, so for example, when the April payment comes in, our bond payment is due in November. I pull that bond payment aside, put it in the debt service account that you see on your cash report. When the December apportionment comes in, our bond payment is due the end of March, 1st of April. Those monies are set aside to make that payment. That way we are in compliance with the bond covenant, and if we're ever checked or audited, we can show that we are abiding by what we signed on the dotted line to promise to do. I added short-term debt guidance. This can be issued to provide financing for the district's operational cash flow to maintain a steady flow until periodic receipts and other revenues are received. So in the event something horrible happened and we ran out of cash in November and we knew we were getting our tax apportionment in December, this would allow us to get a short-term loan to just get us over until we got the tax apportionment. I added a category, allowable types of debt. These are the different types of debt that government agencies are allowed to have. I don't really know if you want me to read each one of them off, but I'll give you a couple seconds to scan them. I added a category, policy goals related to planning goals and objectives. It's long-term financial planning, maintaining appropriate reserves, and employing prudent practices, making sure that we comply with applicable state and federal laws, maintain a minimum net present value debt service savings approximate 3% of the refunded principal amount. Again, that was what we were aiming for, and I believe, if Mary can correct me, we did hit that goal when we refunded a COP a few years ago. And avoid the use of debt to fund infrastructure and facility improvements in circumstances where the purpose of the debt is just to reduce our annual budget expenditures. I added a category, internal control procedures. I added SEC Rule 15C2-12. The bullet below that is the definition of that, but what it's saying is the underwriters of the municipal securities must obtain and review the issuer's preliminary and final official statements and reasonably determine that the issuer has committed to provide continuing disclosure to the investor. I've also, it required that we review federal tax compliance requirements and that we review the district's investment policies. Continuing with the internal control procedures, proceeds of debt will be held by a third party or by the district in a separate fund or account. The district will keep documentation to assure the district is in compliance in practicing current accounting standards. It's subject to a district audit, which would be by Moss, Levy, and Hartsheim, and the records will be held according to compliance or applicable law. This action does not require, does not have any impact on our fiscal budget. So I'm asking that the board approve and adopt Resolution 690, updating the district debt policy this evening. Any questions?
Any questions? Well, we don't have to ask you how you spent your summer vacation. You were working very hard. Director Magner, do you have any questions?
No, I just wanted to say that I'm happy to see that we're updating some of these extremely old policies and now making them resolutions, because I don't think it was a resolution before. So great job, Leo.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, the last time we reviewed this was in 2009 when we did the bonds to build the PV Fields Park, and that was why what required a lot of this is we had to have all this in place to do the bonds. So this is an update of that, and also adding the short-term thing was a good point too, because that wasn't covered in policy before. Are there any further comments? Doesn't look like there are. Let's go to the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 690, adopting the district's financial debt policy.
I'll second it. Call the roll, please.
Director Magner,
Aye.
Chairman Malloy,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Drensfeld,
Aye.
Director Roberts.
Aye.
Okay, item G, consideration approval for parking lot repairs, slurry and restriping at Springville Park.
Good evening, Chairman Malloy. Sorry, my ears went numb. Good evening, Chairman Malloy and members of the board. Tonight, I'm replacing Nick. He's off tonight, so we will run with his presentation. So the district's responsible for 5 acres of parking lots throughout the whole district. We're going to run with a type 2 slurry on this application. It's a thicker coat, has more aggregate into it, so it should last longer. I got to break down that in there. This parking lot is located at the Springville tennis courts, not the dog park, just the tennis courts only. We have alligatoring, cracks, tree roots, all in there. So this was identified in the 2021-22 capital fund budget. This is the funding and budget project is designed to maintain and repair asphalt parking lots, pathways, and services throughout the district. Life expectancy of the parking lots range from 15 to 30 years if they're taken care of, well maintained. Again, Springville Park has upper and lower parking lots. The dog park's the upper. That's how we break them off, and the lower is the tennis courts. The upper was done in 2017 when they did some construction up at the tanks up there. And then the lower parking lot was done in 2008, the last it saw seal coat. And a seal coat, again, seal coat itself is only like 3 to 5 years, and I'll get more into that. Type 2 slurry is best for heavier traveled roadways, streets, and parking lots. The slurry has larger aggregates. It provides a tougher surface that will withstand heavier traffic and more use. The seal coat is best used for low traffic areas. It's a smaller aggregate if it has any at all, so it's just more like a oil per se. Again, asphalt's like any improvements have a projected lifespan based on the construction methods, the maintenance levels, and several other factors, weather, trees. So all the parking lots require maintenance and repairing from cleaning and the seal coat applications and removing or replacing alligator section for complete failures. We've had some parking lots never. I'll use one for Cam Grove. I don't know, since we took it over in 2002, it never had anything done. So that's why it was so bad. We had to go through and tear it up. So that's kind of why the alligator is. But by completing this Type 2 seal coat, the district will be able to set a starting point for scheduled maintenance on our parking lots. Our scope of work, they'll remove 600 square feet of raised asphalt. They'll remove the tree roots. They'll haul the roots and asphalt off-site. No expense there. They'll compact the top 3 inches of existing base that's below the original base in there. And they'll repave approximately 600 square feet with hot asphalt. Then they'll come in and clean the whole parking lot and add the Type 2 slurry for about 12,000 square feet. And they'll come in and restripe it to the existing plan that's already in there, striping plan, and they'll clean up and be gone. Should take about probably 3 days, 4 days a week of work. As you can see in some pictures, you can see the tree roots are here, tree roots over there. So we had 3 bids, pavement coating, committed $23,600, finish line $25,450, and landmark grading was $27,140. So the district allocated $80,000 from capital funds in this project. They're designated in the 21-22 budget. All 3 bids came in under the allocated budget. Should the district authorize work to the lowest bidder, a budget of $56,400 will remain in account 8487. It's recommended that the board of directors authorize and approve the general manager to enter an agreement with Pavement Coatings Company for the asphalt repairs needed at the lower parking lot located at Springville Park in an amount of $23,600 $1,000,000.22. That is it.
Any questions for Bob?
I just have two questions, I think. I'll start with one. Is it possible that this asphalt company could put in a curb ramp over there at PV Fields and keep all the trucks and cars and so forth from tearing up the curb there?
Is that going into the overflow parking on that one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for an opportunity to get that done.
I'm sure I can
can
call,
tell.
I'm sure I can have that done. I'm sure I can have that done out of our regular budget. I can't add it to this one. It wasn't spec'd into it, but I can,
Well, the groups might even be willing to pay for it, but but it's hard to do a small job like that and get an asphalt company to come out. They won't come out.
Right.
And so we got cars that are coming up and they're going to eventually break that curb.
yeah, I thought we had something in place a while ago that.
Yeah, if you could just ask them, I'm sure
Yeah,
they,
I'll get that done for just one of the 6610 budget item, so.
sounds good. That's actually all I had.
Thank you.
Director Dransfeld?
My question was just, have we worked with pavement coatings before or any of the vendors?
Yes, they used to be called, I always forget, it's in my phone. They were from Santa Paula, they got bought out,
Okay, got it.
and we've used them on, I just used them on Freedom Park Drive. It was like last year, budget was like $5,000 repair job. They're reliable, they're quick when we call them, so
Okay.
we're happy with that too.
Great, thank you.
And the type 2 is not many people to really do it around here, so that's another issue I had.
Director Magner, any questions, comments?
I was going to ask what Director Dransfeld asked because I was not familiar with this company, so I just was curious. So thanks, Bob, for answering that question. I have no further questions.
They used to be Western Oil Spreading, WAS.
Yeah,
That's
I
what they were.
recognize that name.
Yeah.
This is a particularly good time to do that because those tennis courts are not all tennis courts now. One of them is two pickleball courts, and the two tennis courts have generally two people playing on each court, and the two pickleball courts each have four people playing on them. So we've increased the population of users in that parking lot significantly. And that's before there's a line to play pickleball, which there seems to be everywhere we have a pickleball court. So that's especially needed, and I go by that park regularly. That parking lot is in bad shape. So, is there no other comments? I'll ask for the motion, and no other. Okay, I have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the general manager to enter into an agreement with with Pavement Coatings Company for the asphalt repairs needed at the lower parking lot located at Springville Park in the amount of $23,600.22.
I'll second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Karen?
Thank you.
Director Magner,
Thank you, Bob.
Aye.
Director Dransfeld,
Aye.
Director Kelly, Director Roberts,
Aye.
Chairman Malloy.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Move on to item H. Consideration and approval of service contract with Disability Access Consultants, LLC, to perform and produce an American with Disabilities Act self-evaluation and transition plan for the district. Jessica?
Good evening, Chairman Malloy, Board of Directors. As you said, we're here to talk about the approval of a service contract with Disability Access Consultants. So, summary, Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, or as we'll refer to as the ADA, of 1990 covers programs, services, and activities of public entities. The process to evaluate, assess, plan, and make recommendations to ensure the district is compliant with Title II programs, Title II our programs, services, and activities offered by the district is called an ADA transition plan and self-evaluation. Staff is recommending that we contract with Disability Access Consultants, LLC, to assist the district with completing a transition plan and self-evaluation. A little bit of background. The ADA has 5 titles. The first is employment. Title II is state and local government. Title III is public accommodations, Title IV is telecommunications, and Title V is miscellaneous. So this plan, this ADA plan, is focused on Title II, which is state and local government, which the district falls under. So a public entity may not deny the benefits of its programs, services, and/or activities to individuals with disabilities by maintaining inaccessible facilities which house these programs, services, and activities. So there is recognition of a side note under the title and under the act that certainly they do understand there are facilities and barriers that have an extreme high cost, so there is some room for it, but by and large, the title is very clear that public entities, state and local governments must do everything they can to where they cannot deny folks with any of these disabilities access. Under Title II, Title 28 CFR Part 35, non-discrimination on the basis of disability in state and local government services, it requires that a public entity evaluate its policies, procedures, and practices by evaluating district policies, procedures, and practices as they pertain to its programs, services, and activities, and make the necessary modifications to those policies and practices that do not meet the programmatic requirements of Title II to the ADA. And that's what this plan is addressing in its essence. So public agencies complete an ADA transition plan and self-evaluation to address Title II and that compliance. The benefits that include highlights, but it's certainly not limited to, is that it identifies physical obstacles in the public entity's facilities that limit the accessibility of its programs and activities to those with disabilities. And the second major large piece is that it provides a schedule and prioritization for barrier removal or mitigation, and it provides cost estimates for mitigation solutions. A third component that is important to point out is the policy, procedure, and practices review and recommendations, which is more commonly considered the part of the self-evaluation of it. So completing the transition plan and the self-evaluation, it requires expertise of professionals trained in multiple areas, including but not limited to ADA compliance, California Building Code, and the 504 Rehabilitation Act. So for those that are not familiar with it, the Rehabilitation Act came first, and then in 1990, the ADA superseded it trumped, but both plans are still in place to where we have to have that compliance. Another component to keep in mind is that with the California Building Code, in many instances, the building code in California has stricter regulations than the ADA, and so we have to follow whichever code has the stricter regulations. So we must have experts that are trained and knowledgeable and aware of all of these areas, So where Disability Access Consultant comes in is that they have partnered with our insurance provider, Capri, where they last year started providing customized training to special districts through Capri, where we received a discount on our safety rating for the year, and they are providing a 20% discount on consulting services for completing the ADA transition and self-evaluation. They have submitted a scope of services that consist of 3 phases. The first is the accessibility self-evaluation of buildings and program areas. So looking over the policies, looking over all of the internal procedures, how we handle accommodation requests, going and setting out the work of the project, but looking at more of the administrative side, as well as beginning the process for looking at the physical inspections. The second phase is the outdoor park and recreation facilities. That's looking and going through actually inspecting all of the facilities, deciding what is subjected to ADA inspection, because not everything that we have will be subjected to it. They will verify that and decipher what is and what isn't. And then the third piece is the actual transition plan. It will entail more of the public comment period, because we will be surveying the public. There will be public engagement involved. That is a requirement of it. In that plan, there will also be one of the things that, as Director Roberts mentioned during Miracle League, they will provide all of the barriers that we have that as a result of the inspections, as well as a prioritized list of remediation solutions, and estimated cost of what those remediation solutions would be. The timeline of completion is no longer than March 31st of 2022. They do suspect it will be earlier than that, but that would be the ultimate end date. There will be minimal to no impact to the public for the inspections. If there are any inspections needed that the public would be impacted, we certainly would have forewarning of that and notify the public, let's say if we had playgrounds that need to be shut down. But their staff will be identified, they will have clothing that identifies who they are, and they will do everything they can not to impede on the public during the inspections. So one key component of this scope is that they do have customized software that all of the data of the surveys, of the inspections, of the self-evaluation will go into. They call it DaxTrack software. They do provide 1 year of it for free. And then after that, every subsequent year, it's just $1,000 licensing fee, which is a reduction compared to their normal fee. If we, at any point, also like to mention, if at any point we choose not to use their software anymore, I have verified they can do an export of all of the data that we put into that and provide that with us before we walk away from it, if we choose to. So of the fiscal impact, the initial cost was $102,600. That would break down to $98,600 for the physical surveying of the facilities and parks, $4,000 for the reviewing of policies, procedures, programs, as well as the public input process, and for the first year of the software for free. The 20% discount does only apply to the physical surveying of district facilities and parks. So with that 20% discount of that piece, it is a grand total of $82,880. And this project was budgeted for this current budget year out of the capital budget. So it is the recommendation that the board review and approve the proposal for accessibility services and authorize the general manager to enter into a contract for consulting services with Disability Access Consultants, LLC, to complete an ADA transition plan and self-evaluation for $82,880.
Any questions for Jessica?
This is obviously a fairly large amount of money. I was wondering, is this something that needs to go through an RFP process since it's over a certain amount of money? Or are they like a sole source because they're able to analyze California policies and ADA?
So as far as the exact financial requirements, I would refer to Leo as far as if it would have to go through RFP. My understanding is it doesn't, that you would be able to authorize the general manager to enter into that contract. We do see this as a good opportunity considering they are offering such a discount. And they have partnered with our insurance provider to ensure that we are compliant in all areas. But again, as far as the fiduciary duty piece, I would refer to Mary and Leo for that clarification.
It would require a RFP, but because of the 20% discount and it partnering with our insurance, we thought that we would still be coming in lower than if we had did a request for a proposal. We didn't think that another agency could come in with a price that low.
Mary, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I will. So a lot of times with, so there's a couple different things. So with our bidding process, because it's public bid, we always have to, anything over 25, it has to go out. So a lot of times when it's a professional service, we aren't required to do an RFP. It's good practice, which is typically what we do. When we have situations like this, when you're looking at potential sole source, because you don't have a lot of agencies that do this, and then on top of that, with the Capri discount and the fact that it comes along with a Capri recommendation, those would be reasons that we'd look at kind of a sole source to do this. But typically, like I said, with others, with professional services, we do go out for an RFP. But for this one, it's more of a isolated project per se. That's why we didn't do a RFP for that.
So we're okay sole sourcing this, we're within compliance, and, you know, this is essentially something we're allowed to do as a sole source versus putting out RFP.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Director Kelly?
Yeah, I just have a few. I actually didn't expect this to look like this. How did we pick this company, DAC?
As a recommendation through Capri, through our insurance provider.
And it looks like they are going to inspect 29 different sites. Is that correct?
Correct. That could change. In the initial kickoff meeting, we would go through and verify and update. But yes, initially, preliminarily, they are inspecting all of these sites listed.
And from each one of these sites, I presume, except for maybe like Mel Vincent Park, was one of the newer ones, they're going to come up with a lot of different suggestions for improvements. Would that be a correct assumption?
Yes.
Okay.
So, of course, there's a variety, but they are the experts, so that's my assumption. But again, I'm not trained in this compliance to know exactly how much they're going to come up with at every park.
So after they're done with their process, we would get recommendations from somewhere between 20 and 29 sites. Would that be a reasonable assumption?
Yes, sir.
Is there an estimate to how much each one of those would cost?
No, that is not. One of the benefits I can say of the transition plan is that legally it does cover you. This is basically, the plan is covering the agency and recognizing that you may go, let's say Freedom Center, take an example. The Freedom Center right now, they're going to go and inspect it. But the law understands that that center may be replaced by the time you go and are able to actually fix any remediation issues. So this plan allows you to recognize what are the issues that you have, set out a plan, and there's not a guaranteed, regulated, mandatory timetable that you have to abide by. It does have fluidity to it. So I guess I say that so that you don't feel, once we publish it and with a price tag to every single remediation barrier, that we are guaranteed, locked, loaded into it, and it must be done. There is fluidity to it that is allowed to change.
My concern is that these suggestions would mount in the millions of dollars.
It's possible.
And we would be unlikely to accomplish very many of them, which means that there would be a substantial number in reserve or on back order, and that by the time we got around to ever doing them, that the law, because I know the ADA law is developing all the time, that we would have paid all this money for this report only to not be able to even implement the suggestions in the report because it would be too old.
So, understandable concerns. By law, if we do not have the plan and we do not have it stated, we can be held liable if we do not address when these violations are going to be touched, if we don't have it acknowledged what our issues are, what the barriers are, and when we expect to fix them. So again, the plan is not saying that they come out with $10, $15 million of concerns, and if you don't fix them in 5 years, then there will be a problem. This plan, again, it allows agencies to go and state, here's what the barriers are, here's what we do plan to do it, and steadily work towards those solutions and remedies.
What would be wrong with a plan where you hired a consultant and they had a certain number of the places where most likely there would be problems, and a smaller company that would not charge $100,000 and possibly more, but before we're done. And have them, like, I doubt that Mel Vinson Park needs to be examined very closely since it's a newer park. I just think they're going to go out there and they're going to find a lot of stuff because that's what they do. That's their job. And then we're going to have this big, long list of things. But one question. Are Quimby funds available for these things?
So let's see if we can, so it's part of this plan. So like right now, we have capital, and so one of the things that's coming down the line that we'll be looking at is a capital improvement plan. But before we do a capital improvement plan, part of it is to figure out what ADA issues, to figure out if some of those things coincide, to make sure that we're covering ourselves when we do that. So.
But we would do that anyway.
Well, so but that's part of that. That's part of addressing some of these issues, is to look and see if we're looking at capital projects. So for instance, we just finished 2 years ago, we did at the community center, we had bathrooms in there that were not ADA. So as part of that project, we made sure that those, and you have to, is we made sure that those bathrooms and everything are ADA and those were upgraded. We did the same thing at Valley Lindo for those bathrooms, that those bathrooms weren't ADA and non-compliant. So those are things that we're doing, but that doesn't stop somebody today going over to